Hello everyone and welcome back to Timber and Stone. It has been quite a while, hasn't it, since we have continued work on our pretty cool looking seaside city. We are now officially working on the far left side of the shoreline. This is going to be kind of the final shoreline element along this edge, and it's also going to house kind of the transition from the town to kind of the upper district on I guess on this side. There's going to be a few docks over here, some more formal larger dock and stonework areas, just to make this feel a little bit more proper. And eventually, of course, we'll try and build maybe a boat or something over here that's actually moored to one of these docks. And it's also going to be a little bit of a seaside defensive point. You can see the turret there at the bottom right, and eventually we'll put a siege engine on that side and one mirroring on the left side. So the main inspiration for this build is going to be, you know, if you guys played World of Warcraft, it's kind of like the docks in Stormwind. You know, they have the kind of lifted center, and then they kind of go down and then outwards and then back out in like a very zigzag pattern to get down to the waterway. I think it's a pretty cool design that you can do. It's also, for the space and height difference between these two areas, it's a good way to transition your stairs down there. You know, you don't want to have this one continual long staircase, though it could have looked cool. You know, having a landing in the middle and then that coming out is going to be a pretty cool element. Now, this takes a lot of time to do. You can see the height difference from just the shoreline on the right, that you can see some fishing storage areas there, and just the height difference in that wall. This whole area is going to be raised up, and we start with about 34,000 stone in our inventory, and this is going to drop down to about 13,000, 12,000 ish by the time we're done. We spend a lot of our resources just raising up the terrain, and that takes a lot of time. And it also means that we spend a lot of time considering the water and clearing that out. I do make the mistake of kind of constructing it just right on top of the water's edge, which ends up looking a little funky. And at that point, I kind of have to go in and erase things so that I can kind of get the water out of the way to make sure everything sits flush onto the ground. Now, I know this is going into a detail that some people might find a little too much at times, but for me, it's super important to get things kind of grounded, very much a realistic aspect, and it does make the whole thing look pretty nice. So we're just kind of roughing in, establishing where we want this lower spot to jet outwards, and then we'll probably have to adjust it a little bit more so we can get the pathways from that left and right side. You can see expanding that a little bit more, and now we can put the staircases down. We can then move into copying the left side from the right side, making sure those kind of mirror each other, and they do look pretty cool, I think, at that. In fact, looking at it, are they actually mirroring? I think so. We have some people coming into the town. You know, our town is, of course, kind of ever growing, and if occasionally the odd goblin or skeleton takes someone out, you know, we do get enough food and people coming to replace them relatively quickly at this point. We are pretty safe in our city here, and as we expand outwards, this is actually going to eventually connect to the main outer wall as well. So it's going to be a major defensive structure over time. Here initially it's just kind of more along the shore and a little less so, but you can really see the floor kind of going in at this point. We're using flat stone for this bit here. We are using great stone for the major wall elements, and we'll eventually add some buttressing to this, and I believe it's umber stone that we use for that, and that is just to make it look a little bit more reinforced, a little bit more heavy duty than most of the structures around in the build so far. You can see us adding the columns here at this point, and you know, just trying to get the spacing in an interesting manner, and we might even add some buttresses along the top just to make that look a little bit more proper as well. This is definitely a very defensive section of the town, and you know, even the wall along dividing the lower section from this upper section is going to be useful in the defensive things. So hopefully that will pan out. We are also trying to really decide on how these docks are going to be working. You can see they're kind of just floating on top of the water. To me, it's fine to have that for these little ones that are kind of sticking out near the fisheries, but overall it just looks a little weird at this point, and so that's what kind of spurs me to start trying to clear out the water so we can get some wooden posts planted and dug out there. And basically, I didn't plan this out too well initially, and so you're going to run into problems when you kind of are working and shooting from the hip in these cases. You can see these wooden posts. I'm like, yeah, I need these wooden logs, these vertical beams to hold up these docks because they are much longer than the rest and much heavier. So, you know, you just want to try and get that straightened out. Trying to use the scaffolding to clear away the water, and it just becomes a mess of a problem. And then eventually I just say, screw it, we're going to just go in, delete the whole lower section and quickly rebuild it after we add in a whole bunch of scaffolding, because you can see, you know, a lot of these layers aren't adding up. The builders are getting a little confused on where to go and how to place things down, and you know, there's areas that are underneath overhangs and the builders can't get to them, and that confuses the AI. You know, Timber and Stone is still an alpha game if you think about it. So, you know, there are these little nuanced things I had to kind of watch out for. And at this point, we're just going to delete the docks and just seal this whole thing off. If you guys haven't seen us build the dry docks to the right side of town, it's very much the similar technique. Luckily, though, we have quite the influx of wood and goods in the town at this point. You know, we're not really struggling. There's not a lot of wait time. So, you know, you just make a bunch of people into builders and you can get this kind of out in a few hours or so. That's about what we're doing in the speed build today, and then we'll do some real time at the end. And, you know, going in, making sure, one, all these holes are filled, because you don't want your builders having to go in and try and build underneath a block that they don't have access to. It really confuses them, and that's why I'm kind of taking my time making sure things are cleared and really filled in. And plus, if I didn't get rid of all the water here, I ran the risk of potentially accidentally breaking the dam that is holding the water back and filling in the whole thing at a stage without really meaning to. So you really want to make sure to fill in all these holes and then use your scaffolding to hold the water at bay. And during the real-time section, we'll break the scaffolding in the dam so you guys get to see this filled in. I think it's a pretty cool thing to see in the game, the flow of water kind of rejoining the shoreline, and it just makes it look pretty cool. We have at this point, a lot of the stonework is done on that front facade, and we'll be just spending a lot of time making this giant hole in the sand. And at this point, we can go ahead and use some sand blocks and some stone blocks to start rebuilding that front dock area and actually tie that directly to the ocean bed. It makes the whole thing look really grounded and just nice in general. Now, you know, you can see a little bit through the water, especially along the shoreline there. So to me, it's super important to make sure everything's resting on that ocean floor. So everything's kind of remeasured out. We're starting to build the docks back out there. We are then deleting a lot of the scaffolding, and you get this nice kind of inverse pyramid all the way down to the bottom. And at that point, you can just establish your pillars again. That's actually going to be holding up the weight of this dock. And now the boats are going to be parked out here, I think perpendicular to these docks, and we might have one more parallel, but it kind of depends on what kind of boat and the size of the boat coming to dock here, and if it's a military vessel or not. We might make a military vessel this time around. I know the last port town we made, we just had some small schooners, so maybe now would be a good time to have something a little bit larger in this town. So at this point, the speed build's kind of wrapping up. There is a lot of stone being laid. Otherwise, we're at about 16,000, and I believe during the real-time section, you'll notice that we are more along the lines of 12,000 stone remaining. So, you know, I did let the simulation run for a little while. After this point, you can see that huge chunk being laid down there. But otherwise, let's go into real time. Hello and welcome to the right flank of the map. You can hear the burning sound kind of off in the distance, and we have a necromancer kind of brewing there. You can kind of see the flames building up in the tree line there. So I have summoned the militia and army, and we're going to use Lucky here to hopefully scout ahead so that we can locate the skeletal force. That way we can send everyone in kind of at once. Hopefully that'll prevent any deaths from happening. You never know. Whenever you get a necromancer in the area and you're kind of facing an army of skeletons, it can be a little iffy, especially if they have archers. Archers are a big kind of problem for any army to deal with in Timber and Stone. So we're just going to follow Lucky here for now. See how everything looks. You can see Lucky carries a bow lately, and he also carries a sword. So it was a pretty cool thing. I don't know why he's carrying two swords, but he is. Just kind of weighing him down a little bit. Okay, so the flames were over here. So we're just gonna keep walking until we run into something. You never know when that'll be, but the game should automatically pause as soon as we do. Lucky's a little on the slow side, ain't he? This is right where the flames were. Normally that's the sign of where the necromancer is, because he kind of shoots fireballs around, kind of burning up your countryside. Okay, I'm concerned. I don't know where that necromancer is. Did he walk just directly to the left? If so, there should be more flames. And if he was taken out due to some arbitrary sunlight reason, that just seems a little weird to me. I've never seen, you don't really see that happen often. Very interesting. Okay, well, I wanted to show you guys some combat, but it looks like we are safe for once, especially during one of these recordings. Okay, so we'll make everything kind of back to normal here. Just quickly disband the militia. I'll keep the military over in this area for now, just as a precaution. Okay, only the people with shields are left. That's the actual proper military, the full-time soldiers. Anyways, here we are over our town. I might be getting a decent amount of frame rate drops, by the way, and I do apologize if that is the case, but you know, the glory in which this town is built upon is a little laggy at this point. So this is what we built in today's speed build episode. We have built the main docks for the main military pier, and also the steps to get up into the upper district, and our first little defensive ballista just overlooking this area. It is a kind of major defensive point that we need to make sure is safe at all times. We'll have another ballista over here. In fact, we can go ahead and do some real-time building just so we can get this out of the way. Here we go. So, Timber and Stone, for those of you who are new to the channel, we have grown a little bit since the last time I managed to get an episode completing. It's very similar to Stonehearth, if you think about it. In fact, I think it even came out before Stonehearth did, so it is actually a little older, and it is a very cool kind of city simulation game where you get to manage a group of settlers that have come into the area, and just like Stonehearth, you get to kind of customize each building and make the defenses kind of your own. So it's a pretty cool setup they have going on here. There's the necromancer just meandering through this whole area, making a mockery of our militia, which I now have to assemble on the fly. No clue how this is going to end, because if he runs into a whole bunch of skeletons right here, it could be a problem. But that necromancer's really on a mission, ain't he? Yeah, his skeletons are trying to follow him. We'll see if they succeed, but right now it looks like the pathing of this necromancer is a little unique. He's wanting to stick to that riverside, which is a little funky looking, if you notice. But we have Gerard here taking pot shots at him, so if we can actually take care of the threat at this stage, that would be ideal. If anything, he should be able to at least take care of these zombies, unless he misses a million times, causing some issues there. Alright, the necromancer's in the water. That's a problem, because our infantry can't really get to him. But we might be able to get lucky to see him. If that's the case, you can just shoot him while he's in the water there. That would be ideal. I hate it when they get into these weird spots, because the necromancer can't really even path out of that area. But I suppose in the meantime, we'll try and get some archers to engage and deal with the remaining skeletons kind of just off in the wilderness. Lucky is having a hard time here. See if we can't find another one to come over and take care of this necromancer. I'm sorry for this really awkward situation. I really wanted this thing dealt with. That's why I kind of was trying to take shots and assemble the militia in a different location. And now that I'm worried, I can't see the necromancer at all. I don't know where he is. Oh, wow. Okay, he's literally right there. Right beside our infantry, which we'll just go over and take him out. Alright, well, that whole weird scenario is over? Question mark? Unless there's just another random threat looming in the distance. You never know with Timber and Stone. You get kind of these weird up and downs of combat and then completely peaceful times. So, for the rest of the episode, what we'll do is go ahead and talk about some plans for the future. You guys can see currently this upper plaza has been raised, so going forward we'll be working on the barracks, which is going to go pretty much right here. The training academy as well is going to go up here, and it will transition into kind of the castle area. And at that point we'll go into more civic buildings, you know, churches, governmental structures. Maybe a tax house, bank of some kind will be up here, kind of near the more fortified sections. And we will then work on an outer wall. We'll also get some sort of kind of higher upper middle class kind of area here, farmland. And at that point, the build will be complete. It's been quite a while, and a lot of stuff still needs done. It does take a lot of time to build in Timber and Stone, so if you guys are excited for all those instant buildings, you know, we're probably going to do the barracks first, then training academy, so there's 2 episodes, and then the castle will probably be multi-part episodes depending on how big we want to make it. You guys can let me know in the comments down below any other buildings and structures that you might think fit our theme of our seaside kind of settlement, town, city. It's grown over the ages, and it's been all 3 basically at this point. So if you guys enjoyed today's episode, feel free to subscribe to my channel for more creative goodness such as this. Go ahead and hit that like button so I know you guys want to see more Timber and Stone. If you're interested in this game, you can buy it. I do want to, encourage supporting the developer of this thing. He has somewhat put the development on hiatus due to the lack of interest of the consumers, and it's kind of a shame. Timber and Stone's kind of always had that high potential, very similar to Stone Hearth. So go ahead and check that out if you want, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.